Chapter 1. Dismissing the Headmaster. Disclaimer. I don't own Harry Potter. That pleasure belongs to J.K. Rowling and all the people she pays to have it make money for her. And a quick thank you to my betas Raxacoricuffalipatorius and Alex33. Any mistakes left are my own. And for future chapters. Okay, so it was pointed out to me that satellite internet wasn't around then, and I know I was around then. I've also brought computers up to modern speed, internet searches, web pages, and such, so they have a concrete way to showing pure bloods what muggles do. I did do the research, so I am waiving my artistic license and making it a reality. Sorry if that puts you off, but it is needed for the plot. Also, I've been informed that Sally, my arc, can be taken as a deus ex machina, and she sorta can. The Potters and their friends will fight their own battles and solve most of their problems with logic, but they will be given advice from Sally. If that puts you off, then please don't read any further. One last thing, I am a passive-aggressive person by nature. It shows in my writing. I am attempting to show what a good family and teamwork can do, so most things will turn out for the better. If you don't like it, don't read. HPHPHP sometime in 1980, a quick narration. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the seventh month dies. And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not. And either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the seventh month dies. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling. This prophecy was made to Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, when he was interviewing Sybil Trelawney for the divination position in his brother's tavern, the Hog's Head. Voldemort was told the first two lines by Severus Snape, who was a new recruit in the ranks of the Dark Lord's Death Eaters, and wanted to secure a better position, not knowing that this prophecy could condemn his childhood friend. Though he had a pretty good idea who the prophecy might be about, Dumbledore didn't tell anyone any more than what Voldemort knew. He didn't want them to go against him and raise a child that was powerful without his help. He felt only he would be able to guide a child strong enough to vanquish a Dark Lord. Lily and James Potter, however, were not stupid. They knew Dumbledore had a problem with keeping things close to his vest and knew there was more to the prophecy than what he was telling them. So they went to the Department of Mysteries and listened to the prophecy. The only reason they could is because the person that was the prophecy spoke about was not identified and would not be until the children were born. They took the Longbottoms for the same reason as their child was due around the same time as Lily's twins were, if Lily were to carry until term. When they heard it, each family started planning. June 1, 1980. Hello, Headmaster. What can I do for you today? James said as he opened the door one summer morning. His wife, Lily, was not feeling well, as one can imagine, since she was due in 2 months. The twins she was carrying could be born at any minute. I don't think now is a good time for a visit. Lily isn't very chipper this morning. Ah, James, it is such a beautiful morning that I thought now would be a wonderful time to pay a visit. To the matter at hand, as you know, Lily will be giving birth any time now. This has me concerned, and I was wondering what your family was planning to do to keep the young one safe. The elderly man said as he gently shouldered his way into the house, ignoring the last part of James' statement. The living room was quaint. Only a couch, 2 chairs, and a coffee table littered the medium-sized room. They were all done in mute browns and gold. A nice large floral rug was seen peeking out from under the couch and coffee table. 2 matching smaller ones were thrown under the chairs. Scenic pictures of the ocean side lined the walls, with the brass, gas-light fixtures that were common in all wizarding households. Lily was perched on the sofa with her swollen bare feet up on the table in front of her, resting on a pillow. She did not look like she would be moving any time in the near future. "How are you today, my dear?" Albus said, taking the chair across from her. "How do you think I'm doing?" Lily snapped rudely. It wasn't her fault that the man hadn't listened to James. He was warned. "I feel like I've swallowed a house. My feet are swollen, and it seems like I'm forever peeing or eating. I just want this to all be over. The quicker, the better." She bemoaned like mothers all over the world tend to do this late in pregnancy. "You'll have to forgive Lily, Headmaster," James said, joining his wife. He grabbed her ankles and swung her feet around and put them on his lap so he could rub them. She is not feeling well right now. Perhaps you can come back at a better time, maybe after the boys are born and we get better settled here. Then she might not be so crabby, James chuckled, earning a dark look from his wife. Don't talk about me as if I wasn't here, James. Unless you want to spend the next 2 months sleeping on the couch, the pregnant woman snapped. Besides, I like this little house. It's comfy. They had just moved to the cottage in Godric's Hollow because James' family home was still being repaired after the Death Eater attack just a month before, which had killed his parents. The couple still mourned over their loss. Had it not been for the fact that Lily was to deliver soon, they would be more sorrowful. They had been at the healers at that time and were sorry that they couldn't be there for his family. But since Lily was carrying twins, the closer she got to her due date, the more often she had to go to the healer. Since the manor was old, it needed to be repaired carefully so that it would be just the way it was before the attack. James wanted his boys to have an ancestral home to grow up in. Until that time, they were staying in the cottage, which had been purchased for their honeymoon the year before. The cottage was 2 stories high and had 3 bedrooms. They were making the largest bedroom into a nursery for the twins. They would have the babies sleep in the same room until they were older. Magical twins often remained together so that a bond could grow between them, making them magically stronger. Right now, the Potters were working with Sirius, Remus, and Peter to put up wards on the cottage. However, wards took time to erect, since you can only put up one at a time, and only one per week. That way, the ones you cast first would mesh with the new one. Alas, I was hoping that you would have time for me, Dumbledore said, with that grandfatherly tone of voice he took when he wanted people to not disappoint him. I will try to come again at a later date to discuss what you will be doing to protect your boys from Voldemort. Ignoring the flinch, Lily never saw the need to get scared when the name was mentioned. As you are aware, he will be coming after whichever child is born as the 7th month dies. And since both you and the Longbottoms have faced him 3 times and survived, it is probable that one of your children is in danger. As you know, there was a spy in the tavern when I heard the prophecy. Regrettably, I know not how much was heard. I do believe it was only the first 2 lines. I would tell you the rest, but I don't want to endanger your family any more than they already are. I only want to ensure that your families are safe. I understand that, Headmaster. I just don't think now at the time. She'll only get worse as the pregnancy progresses, James said as he continued to rub Lily's feet, ignoring her when she kicked him. We're almost there, aren't we, Lily Flower? He said, consoling his wife, trying to keep her temper at bay. You're doing so well. Do you need anything to help make you more comfortable? You know Alice is due soon too. Maybe we can get Frank to bring her by, and you two can compare what you're going through and talk about what horrible husbands you have for getting you this way in the first place. Will that make you feel better? James said in a gentle, teasing tone of voice as he watched Lily lower her feet and tried to get up from the sofa, and then he helped her stand, always the supportive daddy-to-be. Yes, I think a good session of husband bashing might be just what we need this close to the due date. You should ask him after you see the headmaster out, Lily said as she gave a glare to the headmaster. She then waddled out of the room to either use the loo for the 100th time that day or to get something to eat. You can never tell with her anymore. As you can see, Headmaster, we're not up for talking about depressing things right now. Like I said, you should probably come back after the boys are born. Take heart in knowing that we are putting up as many wards as we think we can get away with here. The last one we're putting up is the Fidelius. I'm not going to tell you who the secret keeper is going to be, but Sirius, Remus, and Peter are helping. I'll see you when the next order meeting is called, James said as he guided the headmaster gently but firmly out the door. I will endeavor to gain an audience with you when that time comes. Congratulations once again, my dear man. Please, let me know if there is anything I can do for you and your family, the headmaster said as he let himself be guided away, knowing he would not be able to talk to this couple any more today. Maybe he would attend the Longbottoms. In the end, James did call Frank Longbottom on the flu and asked him to bring his wife Alice over to the cottage in the next day or so. He let them know of the meeting with the headmaster and wanted them over so they could go over their plans. He hoped that between them and each family's grimoire, they could find something to protect the children. He didn't really trust the headmaster completely, as the old man was prone to playing with other people's lives. They knew there was a spy in the order, but Dumbledore refused to make everyone take a vow stating they hadn't turned nor wouldn't turn to Voldemort. So they had to do their best with what they had. HPHPHPN. I really dislike most of the WBWL stories that make Harry either grows up neglected or with Petunia. I feel that if Lily were the fierce person that she is portrayed as in canon, then there is no way that she would abandon her child. So here is my take on that genre. Chapter 2. The Prophecy Children Born. And there is no sixth floor of St. Mungo's, but I need somewhere magical for the kids to be born. I'd like to thank Alex 33 for going through this for me, but any mistakes are my own. But hey, if you see a mistake, or something comes to question, feel free to let me know. I'm pretty mellow about stuff like that. Disclaimer. I don't own anything related to Harry Potter. That privilege belonged to J.K. Rowling and all those who she lets make money for her. HPHPHP July 30, 1980 around 10 p.m. St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. Maternity ward 6th floor. Oh, Alice. A very pregnant Lily gushed. He's such a handsome young man. What are you going to name him? I know you two were stuck on a few different ones. Which did you decide on? She asked, her long red hair falling past her shoulders as she tried to lean over her rather large belly to see over the new mother to take a peek at the newborn boy. We decided on Neville, so his name is Neville Franklin Longbottom, Alice said with pride, as she looked fondly at her baby boy. It had been an easy delivery, not like poor Lily who had been here for days now. How are you, Lily? Aren't you due any minute? The new mom asked, holding the newly named Neville up so that Lily could see him better. Lily could make out wisp of curly blonde hair peeking from under the sleeping cap they put on all newborns. Maybe you should sit down, Alice suggested, then remembering what her nurse had told her added. Or better yet, take a short walk. You've been standing there for hours. Your feet have got to be hurting. Not that I don't want you here. You are Neville's godmother, after all. But you need to move around. Go on, Lily. Take a short walk. You need to get the circulation going. She suggested to the other woman, then glanced at James to support her. Thanks, sounds like a good idea, Alice. Come on, Lilyflower. Let's see if we can't get these two to be born soon. A walk will be just the thing the Mediwizard ordered, James said, taking her gently by the elbow and trying to guide her away from the baby. Come on, sweetie. Don't you want to have these two born soon? You know what the Mediwizard said. Some walking will do you good. And with that, he led her out the door. But I want to see my godson, James, Lily complained, trying to get back into the room. Why do I have to go for a walk? My feet are swollen, and shouldn't I be sitting? She grumped, but reluctantly followed her husband down the hall, knowing what they were telling her was fact. Come on, Lilyflower. You'll feel better, I promise, James cooed, and with her elbow still gently in his grip, he guided her further down the hall and towards the room set up for them. They had been in the hospital for 2 days now, waiting for Lily to go into labor. She was one of the rare mothers who carried her twins to full term, and they wanted to make sure they were not caught unaware when the boys were ready to be born. She had been having Braxton Hicks contractions for weeks now, and after being sent home 3 times, the hospital decided it was close enough to the due date to have them stay here. It wasn't busy this time of year, and it was the Potters' money paying for it, so who were they to complain? The next night, Lily went into labor as well. At 11:55 p.m., Harry James Potter was born. At 12:03 a.m., Gary Charles Potter was born. When the Mediwizard put down the time for Gary, and both parents were shocked that the time marked on Gary's certificate read 11:59 a.m. Lily, did you see that? James whispered to his wife after the Mediwizard left the new parents alone to bond with their children. I wonder what that was all about. Do you think it might be fate changing the time like that? Do you think we should tell anyone? His voice showed his concern. His face took on a firmer look, as if reaching some important decision. I think we should leave it alone, he said with a decisive nod. That way Albus will not have any reason to pick one over the other. Our boys and Alice's boy could be said to be born as the 7th month dies. I don't want any of them singled out. You're right. I think we should leave it alone, the new mother said, just as unwavering as her husband. We'll raise both boys exactly the same. What one gets, so does the other, plus we'll make sure Neville is treated just as fairly. Well, other than what Harry receives when you die, After all, he is your heir and all. Although, Sirius said if he doesn't have children, then he wants Gary to be his heir. So that should balance it out. Not that I don't want Sirius to have kids, she said hastily, not wanting bad luck to fall on a friend just so her son gained. Just that, if he doesn't, then Gary will inherit something too. And we know Neville will be Frank's heir, so all the boys will be on even ground, so to speak. We'll talk more about that later. For now, get your friends and let's celebrate the boy's birthday, Lily demanded as she cuddled her boys close. The feeling of doom was closely approaching, and she wanted to love her boys as long and as hard as she could. James did as he was told, and soon brought Sirius and Remus into the room. Peter had yet to show up, something about taking care of his mother. They all loved Peter. He was such a good friend and good son to his mother. So they forgave him for not being there. Remus, I'd like you to meet your godson, Harry James Potter. He's the one with the purple band around his wrist, the proud father said, pointing to the child in Lily's right arm. You couldn't tell the boys apart. They both had dark curly hair, and both were looking around the room with bright, unfocused green eyes. Sirius, I'd like you to meet your godson, Gary Charles Potter, the one with the green. Now, his voice took on a serious lilt. As you know, you'll be sharing responsibility with the Longbottoms, as Alice will be godmother to both boys. James said proudly, showing off his first-born children as they lay in Lily's arms. As a pure blood, having an heir was very important. Most were very lucky to have one child, let alone twins. He only knew of two other set of twins born around this time, and one wasn't from this country. It was too bad they had lost the Prewitt twins earlier that year, thereby ending that line. They would have had a great time helping raise their sister's twin sons and the other 4 boys, of course. Marley was a miracle among purebloods, as she had had 6 children so far, and it didn't look like she was going to stop any time soon. James sighed and continued, I just wish we had one more child for Peter to be godfather to, but Peter said he understood. Maybe our next baby. He was looking forward to having a large family, maybe a girl for the next one, which would suit the shy friend better. Look at my godson, Remus. He's better looking than yours, Sirius said, as he gazed fondly at Gary, not really meaning it, but wanting to brag anyway. Look, he has his mother's eyes. Let's hope he has her eyesight as well, James, he said with a smirk, and ribbed James in good humor. Sirius, you moron, they look exactly alike. The only way we know the difference is the colored band on their wrist, Lily complained. She wasn't in the mood for Sirius right now. The man was never serious, no pun intended. She had been up for hours with Alice, and then with her own labor, and it seemed like days since she slept. Now all she wanted to do was sleep, which is why she had James bring them in now so they could get it over with. Remus, if something happens to us, you have to make sure that the boys stay together and stay sane. I'm counting on you to keep a leash on this mutt, she said as pointing to Sirius after she handed Gary to his godfather. Then she handed Harry to his godfather and sunk down into the pillows. Now that she knew that the boys were healthy and fed, she really needed to sleep. She only shut her eyes for a minute and out she went. SHHH, James whispered to the clucking godfathers. He put a finger to his lips. It looks like it has all finally caught up with her. Let's take the boys over here and see if we can't get them to sleep as well. I know I'm tired, he said, after kissing his wife on the forehead. He guided his friends to the nursery part of the room, where there were 2 rocking chairs and 1 solid, comfortable armchair. Don't you two look so proud, James said with a grin, like you did all the work in bringing the into the world. He took the armchair since he didn't have a baby to rock. It was comfortable enough to sleep in. He should know he used it for the last few nights. Well, I guess I'll let you be proud. Remember, what we talked about, we don't want the boys spoiled, James said firmly, gaining the attention of the 2 distracted godfathers. We want them to learn how to be responsible. However, if they're so inclined, we can teach them all about the pranking we did in school. But I don't want them to be bullies like we were. It was too close a call that night with Snape. He or Remus could have been killed, and I don't want them to ever experience that. That was a horrible feeling. He grimaced in remembrance when Sirius told Snape how to get to the tunnel under the Whomping Willow. Snape almost died when he found Remus in his werewolf form. If James had not rescued him, both men probably would have died. Snape from the werewolf and Remus from the ministry. It's okay, Prongs. I'll do as Lily says and make sure that we don't spoil these two angels. I'll try and keep Padfoot on a leash, Remus promised with a whisper, ignoring the indignant "Oi." As he looked at Harry with fond and gentle eyes, he gently rocked the baby to sleep. He had never believed that anyone would trust him with their child, yet here he was holding a precious boy not even a day old. You know you were in the wrong that day, Sirius. If Snape had been killed or worse, turned, I'd be dead right now, and we'd not be here enjoying this time with our godsons. So I'll make sure that that never happens to them if I can help it. I know, Sirius said, his head dropped in shame, and I tried to apologize to Snape, but my owls returned unanswered. When you asked me to be godfather to your youngest, I was so completely blown away that I wanted to make sure that all my guilt was extinguished. So I had nothing that could be held over my head, he said, cuddling Gary close to his chest, vowing to do whatever it took to make sure these boys lived long, happy, and healthy lives. You know, Sirius said after a pause, no matter what my mother says, if my parents die, I'll be the Lord Black. Grandfather passed away about a month ago, and he named me heir when my father passes. It was a magical will, so my mother can't overturn it. For some reason, he didn't want Regulus to be the lord of the Black family. I think he wanted the Black to become the Grey family they once were. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to talk to him before he died. I want Gary to be my heir unless I have children of my own. So far that hasn't happened, and I'm not holding my breath that it will. As many women as I've been with, I should have had at least one bastard child out there, he concluded, also rocking his godson to sleep. And wouldn't that put his parents' nose out of joint naming a bastard his heir, or even someone not in the immediate family? And Sirius so loved making his family angry at him. I know, Sirius. We talked about this already, and I have no problem with you taking Gary as heir, James said, closing his eyes and leaning his head back onto his chair. I'll have Harry here as mine. It'll be good that they both have something to look forward to, so they have a secure future. We're going to want to make sure they understand the responsibility that comes with these titles. He was so tired. Maybe he would just take a nap for a little while. The guys would take care of the boys, he was sure of it. He trusted them above all else. I'm going to take a nap, you guys. When the boys go to sleep, there are the cribs over by Lily, or you can continue holding them. If they start crying, wake either me or Lily up, or you can call the nurse and she'll help you. I hope you've been practicing changing nappies because you won't get out of that duty. Go to sleep, Daddy, Sirius teased, seeing how tired his friend was. We'll take care of the boys. No one will hurt them while we are here. We might just head down the hall and see if Frank and Alice are awake and introduce all the kids together. They'll be growing up together after all. They should meet as soon as possible. Ma'am, whatever you think is best, Padfoot. Make sure the boys. James trailed off as he fell asleep, his head lolling back on the chair in what looked to be an uncomfortable position. Come on, Mooney, Sirius whispered, getting up and cradling his sleeping godson to his chest. Let's go see the Longbottoms and show off our godsons to them. He gently swayed Gary to make sure he stayed asleep. Good idea, Padfoot. Let's do that, and we should see if we can get in touch with Peter so he doesn't miss all of this joyfulness. I'm sure his mother can do without him for an hour or so, Remus said as he followed Sirius out the door, making sure Harry was secure in his arms. Yeah, I didn't know she was so sick. He always seems to be helping her nowadays. He is such a mama's boy. I guess that makes him a good guy, tell you what. I'll try and call him after I hand this little guy off to Frank. And with the two friends went to introduce the Potters to the Longbottoms. HPHPHPN. Just a quick note, so you guys don't think I'm a moron or something. I know that babies are usually born with blue eyes. However, for the sake of this fic, magical babies are born with the eye color they will have when they get older. Also, the black timeline of deaths is mixed to fit my timeline. See, I have an artistic license, shows blank piece of paper. Well, it still works. It's magical. Chapter 3. The Prophecy Begins. And I'd like to thank my beta Alex33 for going over this. However, any mistakes are of course my own. I do read over the chapters 3 times, sometimes more, but I know I don't catch everything. If you see something that doesn't make sense or is a plot hole, feel free to tell me. Disclaimer. I don't own anything related to Harry Potter. That privilege belonged to J.K. Rowling and all those who she lets make money for her. HPHPHP, October 31, 1981, they felt the wards fall and the children started crying, knowing something bad was going to happen. The older Potters now knew Peter had betrayed them. Peter Pettigrew, who they thought was a devoted friend, had been the secret keeper for the Potters. He had been trusted to keep the secret of where the house was hidden. If he didn't tell you, or write it down, you wouldn't be able to find the Potters' house in Godric's Hollow. Either Peter was the spy or he was tortured to reveal the secret. James was going with spy because everyone thought Sirius was the secret keeper, so there had been no reason for Voldemort to target Peter. It was the way they planned it, so if Voldemort was here, then they had been betrayed. "Lily, he is here. Take the boys and run. I'll try and hold him off," James yelled over the scared and crying boys. He pulled his wand and stood in front of the stairs, hoping that his wife and children made it to the nursery where they should be able to portkey out. They had set it up so that the emergency portkey would go through the wards from a certain spot in the nursery, as long as no one had set up additional wards. Lily ran up the stairs, one child on each hip, just as the front door blew open. She sprinted to the nursery and tried the emergency voice-activated portkey, but it didn't work. Peter must have informed Voldemort of their plans, confirming he was indeed a spy. Damn him. Lily put the children down in one crib, away from the door, so they were both behind her when she would confront Voldemort. She would face death before she abandoned her children. She knew if she died protecting them, they would hopefully be safe. They had set the spell up in the nursery just in case this had happened. Frank and Alice found it in their family grimoire. It was a chancy spell that only had a 40% chance of working, but if it would save the children, then they would do it. The Longbottoms had the same setup for Neville. Neither family had let anyone know this part of the plan. She stood in front of her children and waited wand in hand, couldn't let the dark idiot know she wasn't going to fight. James was fighting Voldemort. He knew he wasn't as powerful as this so-called lord, but he'd try and hold him as long as he could to give Lily time to activate either the portkey or set up the spell. He and Voldemort had been exchanging spells for 5 minutes now. The living room was marred with scorch marks, and James had been backed halfway up the stairs. Cursing Peter for his treachery, he stood his ground. He would die before he would let this madman kill his family. Voldemort sent a blasting curse at James, and it missed, but it did hit the wall beside him. James tried to get out of the way, but knocked his head into the railing when he ducked and fell unconscious to the floor. Voldemort, not caring whether the man was dead or knocked out, walked right past him. He was here for the child. He went up the stairs to where he could hear the children crying. He had a prophecy to stop. Lily stood her ground when the so-called Dark Lord entered the room. "Not my children. Please take me, let my children live," she begged. It was part of the spell you had to ask for your child's life and offer yours instead to activate the spell. "Stand aside, you stupid girl. I only want your children. Stand aside." Voldemort motioned for Lily to move aside so he would have a clear shot at the twins. "No, not my children. I'll do anything but spare my children." Of course, Lily didn't move. She would never abandon her kids. "You foolish woman, I would have spared you, Avada Kedavra," yelled the Dark Lord, and Lily fell to the floor. "Severus asked that you be spared. He knew that I would not spare the children, but he asked, more like begged, for your and your husband's life. He said it was so he could get his revenge on your husband, but I knew he was lying. No one lies to the Dark Lord. His screams were well worth it. I was going to spare you and then kill you in front of him. But you had to interfere, and now your whole family will pay the price," Voldemort said to Lily's corpse as her soul watched with mournful eyes, knowing there was nothing she could do now, but hoping the spell worked. Voldemort then turned to the suddenly silent toddlers. "Which one was to be my downfall? Well, no matter. I will just kill you both, and then I will kill the Longbottom child. Avada Kedavra," he stated, pointing his wand at Harry since he was closest. As soon as Lily's body hit the floor, large green dome formed, yet in his confidence, Voldemort paid no attention to it. It surrounded the boys, protecting them from the worst of the curse and the debris caused by the backlash of the two magics meeting. Harry received a lightning bolt wound on right side of his forehead from the diverted curse, and Gary received a V-shaped one on the left from parts of the crib. The spell had gone through the shield, and then, after causing Harry's wound, reflected back and hit Voldemort, causing his body to turn to ash, leaving only a robe and a wand. Had the boys not been together, Harry would have died. The twin bond fed the dome and helped with the protection spell. Both boys passed out from magical exhaustion, and the dome dissipated. A small girl-like figure, who was dressed in a frilly pink dress with shiny black dress shoes and white knee socks, had watched the whole thing. Her name was Death, or Sally, depending on the day, and she knew that without their mom these boys would have a horrible life. She had seen that there would be many trials for the boys, and they needed a fierce protector to stand up for them. Not that James was a bad sort, but without his wife to beat down his arrogance, he would be too good of a provider to his boys, and they would grow up spoiled and arrogant, and they didn't need that. They needed their mother. Sally asked Lily's soul if she was willing to pay a price to keep her boys safe. Lily agreed immediately, so she took Lily's soul and put it back in her body. She then modified her memory to show that Voldemort cast a cutting curse on her abdomen, and then Sally cast the curse to make it real. Lily will never have more children. Putting her soul back had to have a price. The little deity then turned to the twins and gently stroked their foreheads. "Don't worry, boys. I'll be here to help you in this life. Fate dealt you a bad hand, and I'm going to teach you all I can to make it better. While there are some things I can't change, this is not one of them. If it had not been for the prophecy, you both would have lived happy lives and never would have faced old Voldemort. So it is okay for me to step in and make sure you die when you are supposed to, and not when the prophecy decides. We will stand together until you don't need me anymore, and hopefully that will be enough for you to win." Downstairs, James was groggily getting off the floor. He leveled himself up on the remains of the railing and tried to remember what was going on and why he was on the stairs. It took him a few seconds, then he remembered Voldemort attacking. Getting up from the floor, he ran up the stairs to see how his family fared. "Lily," he yelled desperately, not hearing any movement in the nursery. "Lily, answer me, please." He made it to the room and saw that his whole family was lying down as if dead. He hastily ran to Lily since she was covered in blood and waved his wand over her prone body. The diagnostic spell showed she was still alive, so he cast a healing spell, a pisky, on her and tried to stop the bleeding. It took 3 times before the bleeding stopped, so he cast a spell to wake her. "Renovate," he incanted, and with that Lily woke. "My babies! How are my babies?" She screamed hysterically as she scrambled up off the floor. She quickly turned to the crib. "Please, please, let the spell have worked. Please let my babies be alive," she begged to guards unknown, as she cast the diagnostic spell on the crib, hoping to see both babies alive. "Oh, thank all that is holy, they are alive." "Renovate," she cast on Harry, who then woke crying. Then she cast it on Gary, and he also woke crying. "I'm so glad you are safe, James. What happened to you? I heard you fall and feared the worst. Please, take Harry, go call St. Mungo's, see if we can get a healer. See what you can do to heal his wound. Their wounds seem to have stopped bleeding, but I want them looked at anyway. We won't be able to leave until the auras come. I'll bring Gary down in a minute. I need to heal his wound and he needs his nappy changed," she babbled, saddened and happy at the same time, emotions overwhelming her logic, her desperate need to make sure her family was okay. She turned to hand the crying Harry to her husband. "Okay, sweetie, SHHH, calm down. It's over. Here, I'll take Harry. It won't take long to call St. Mungo's. I hit my head on the railing trying to avoid a blasting curse. Please, come down as soon as you can. I want my family where I can see that they are safe," James said, trying to calm his hysterical wife, while taking Harry, rocking him in his arms to try and stop the crying. Lily nodded at her husband's words, took a deep breath and picked up her youngest child, and carried him to the changing table. Seeing that his wife was calming down, James left the room. He carried Harry on his hip and went downstairs. He put the now quiet child down in the playpen they had set up for the boys by the window so they could see the trick-or-treaters in costume walk by the house. It was their way of celebrating this year while they were cooped up in the cottage. He dragged it closer to the fireplace, threw some flu powder in, and called for St. Mungo's. "Hello, I need a healer here." "We were attacked," the desperate father called into the green fire. "We're mostly fine, but my wife was hit with a cutting curse. My children have been hit with an unknown curse. They both have wounds on their heads. Please, send someone as soon as you can. We're at Honeymoon Cottage in Godric's Hollow. The house is under a Fidelius, and the healer needs to read that paper before he comes." He handed a piece of parchment that had the address written by Peter through the flue to the receptionist so they could get past the charm. He removed his head, stood, checked on his son. Seeing Harry was still fine, he grabbed more flue powder. He then called the aura department. "Hello, we have been attacked by you-know-who. All the adults were knocked out, and we have no idea what happened. You-know-who's robe and wand are in the nursery. There is no sign of him. We need someone to come and investigate. We're at Honeymoon Cottage in Godric's Hollow. The house is under a Fidelius, and the aura needs to read that paper before he comes," again giving them the address written by Peter. He then moved away from the fireplace, giving room in case someone came through. He picked up Harry and rocked back and forth to keep him calm. It also settled James' nerves to have one of his sons in his arms, mostly safe. James heard a noise in the front of the house and held up his wand just as Sirius came running through the broken door, panting. He saw James comforting one of the twins. He couldn't tell them apart yet, and Lily coming down the stairs with the other twin. "Oh, thank Merlin, you're all right. I was so worried when I couldn't find Peter. He was supposed to meet me tonight, and he never showed. I went to his flat, and most of his stuff is missing. What happened? Where is you-know-who?" The frightened young dark-haired said, his wand raised in the air, as if he was going to fight to the death for who he considered his only family, even if they weren't blood-related. James had been his brother since he was 16 and had run away from home to the Potters. James' mother was a black and was more than happy to take in Sirius. "We're not sure. We were both knocked out. The boys seem to be fine, but for the wounds on their head. There's a robe and a wand in the nursery, but we don't know what happened," James said, still rocking Harry. "We're waiting for the auras to come and do some testing, so we'll know what happened," Lily said in a calming manner as to not alarm the children. It had taken a few minutes of normal mother duties to calm her down, but now that she knew her family was all alive, if not well, she was doing better. "I'm hoping that when the auras are done, you and James will go rat hunting, the little bastard of a coward. I can't believe we trusted him. I hope he fries in the deepest pits of hell. If I find him, I'm going to cut off his bits and make him eat them." Her bright green eyes lost focus on the revenge she was plotting for the man who they all trusted. "Lily, I never knew you had it in you to hurt someone like that," Sirius said, not noticing the disbelieving look on James' face. James knew just how vicious his wife could be. "Of course, we'll go rat hunting. It will be my extreme pleasure to hand you that sniveling idiot, just so you can cut his bollocks off. Just don't make me watch, okay?" he said with a vicious, yet thoughtful gleam in his eyes. Revenge would be sweet. "That man put my children's lives in danger. If I get my hands on him, he will wish for death. And I'll make it last a very long time. You wouldn't believe all the non-magical ways to torture someone. I've read many a novel, which have given me great ideas, and if I catch that rat, he'll feel my wrath." Lily bit out through her gritted jaw, clutching her child as close as she could without harming him. A noise came from the front of the house, and all the adults put the children down and pulled their wands, taking a stand in front of the playpen. The children started crying again, now that their parents weren't holding them. Hagrid, the half-giant, who worked at Hogwarts, came through the front door with tears on his face. All of the Order knew where the Potter hid, just in case something like this happened. He had been told by the Headmaster that Lily and James were dead. This was why he now looked on in shock at the three adults standing together, wands pointing straight at his head. He could see both boys were also alive, if not completely well. "Lily, James, I'm so happy to see you're alive. Dumbledore told me ye was dead. I was to take Gary to Hogwarts and a rye to your sisters, Lily. Now, am not sure what ter do. Why, ye standing next to that traitor. I would have thought ye would hexing. I am not standing next to I am," the confused man said as he scratching his rather bushy beard. While Hagrid was a good man, he was very simple. Give him an order and he would move mountains to see it through. Some negated that order, and he took a minute to come up with a different plan. Why would Dumbledore think we were dead? How did he even know we were attacked? And why in the name of all that is holy would he want Harry with Petunia? She hates magic and she hates me. What the hell is he playing at? Lily fired her questions to the poor half-giant, keeping her wand on him. She loved the man. You couldn't find a gentler soul than Hagrid, but she would be damned if he was taking her children anywhere. Sirius was a decoy. We traded with Peter so that Sirius would be the target of the Death Eaters. We let everyone think that he was the secret keeper so Peter would be safe. That rat betrayed us, and I'm sure he is the spy, and not Remus." James looked shamefaced to Sirius. "We're going to have to apologize to Mooney for thinking he had gone dark," he told him. Sirius looked mortified and only nodded his head in agreement. Dumbledore wanted the children to go to a safe place. He wanted me to collect them and get them to safety. He figured ye all to be dead. Not sure why he thought that, great man Dumbledore, but now seeing as to how you're alive, I'll just be going back to report the good news. He can come and see for himself that I'm not needing to take the little uns anywhere," the gentle giant said, keeping his hands in the air as to not anger Lily any more than she already was. You could see he was genuinely happy that his friends weren't dead, albeit very confused as to why Dumbledore thought they were. "Yes, you go and tell Dumbledore that we are alive, and he's not taking my children anywhere," Lily spat as she lowered her wand. She didn't put it away, just lowered it to her side. She knew Hagrid was mostly immune to magic, but she could acquire a knife to her hands and cut him if she had to. The men lowered their wands as well and stayed ready in case they were needed to protect the family. Just then the fire blazed, causing the wands to come up again, and a healer came through. "I am healer rights. We got a call that you needed a healer. Who needs me the most?" The healer asked, pulling a bag from his robes that contained an emergency kit full of potions. Then he noticed the wands pointed at him and raised his hands. Adults lowered their wands and Lily took over. "Check the children first. I'm not sure what they were hit with, but they are both wounded on their heads. Then when you are done, I need to be checked." James closed the wound, but I don't know how much damage was done. "Then James hit his head earlier this evening, so you might want to check him as well," she said as she watched Hagrid move towards the door. "I'll just be going then. I'll tell Dumbledore that all it well air. You take care now," Hagrid said as he left. "Good to see you're alive and all," he finished lamely as he walked out the ruins of the door. The fireplace blared again, and a man in red robes came through. "I'm Aura Roberts. We got a report that there was a fight with you-know-who. Can anyone tell me what happened? We were sitting down enjoying the night. I felt the wards being attacked, so I told Lily to take the boys and go upstairs where we had set up an area for an emergency portkey to work. You know who blasted the door in and we fought. I hit my head and passed out," James explained, and then waved to Lily to take up the explanation. "I took the boys to the nursery to try and escape, but the portkey didn't work. So I put them in the crib and activated a spell we had set up to keep them safe. You know, who came in and told me to step aside, not sure why," she said, suddenly thoughtful. She shook her head and got back to the explanation. "He then cast a cutting curse." She waved to her cut-up and bloody shirt. "And I think I passed out due to the pain. When James woke me up, the boys were unconscious, and there was a robe and wand on the floor. No sign of Voldemort anywhere. I don't know what happened after I was knocked out." Lily finished, keeping her wand ready with all these new people in the house. "Okay, I'll go upstairs and check out the nursery." "I would like to know what the healer finds, though," Aura Roberts said as he made his way to the stairs, observing where James fell. James and Sirius followed to make sure they could answer any questions. Both men came back down the stairs after being kicked out by the aura. The healer gave his report after examining everyone. "I don't know which boy was hit, but one of these little guys was hit with a killing curse. The residue is on both of them, but other than that they seem in good health. I have the wounds all sealed. Unfortunately, they will have curse scars. Sally changed Gary's scar to be a curse scar. Other than that, they are both in good health," he said, trying to make the frightened young couple feel better with some good news. "The bond between them is growing at a good rate. It is what more than likely kept them alive. This night made it much stronger." The healer continued as he turned to James. "Mr. Potter, you're fine. That bump on the head didn't do anything but render you unconscious." "Mrs. Potter," he said, bringing his attention to the only woman in the room, "I cleaned up the area of the cutting curse. However, there was damage to your uterus, and you will not be able to have any more children. I'm sorry, I can only hope that you will be happy with the two you have," he said, as he put a consolatory hand on Lily's arm. Lily somehow knew this was going to happen. Sally had twisted her emotions so that she would not too be upset over it. "It's okay. I'll just have to spoil these little guys more than I was going to. I'm just glad they're okay. I'd pay any price for the safety of my family. Thank you, Healer Wright. I know you're probably very busy right now. So thank you for coming as soon as you did, she said, as she escorted the healer to the flue, pleased that her family was safe and alive with no real lasting damage, well except for her uterus, but she could live with that. Not a problem. I am just glad everyone here is alive. It is not always the case, as you know, the healer said as he was leaving, and with those parting words he flew away. The Aura was upstairs looking at the remains of Voldemort and trying to find out what had happened after Lily was knocked out. She went upstairs to let him know what the healer had found, hoping that it would help explain things to him. Once that was explained, the Aura figured he had a better idea of what happened. There's a lot of magical residue in here. There's the spell you and your husband set up to protect the children, there's the cutting curse that you were inflicted with, and there are signs of the killing curse being cast twice. I think the curse missed the twin that was on the left-hand side and hit the one on the right. Do you remember which child was where? Yes. Gary was on the right and Harry was on the left. They both have head wounds that will scar so the healer doesn't know which one was hit, Lily replied. She had a feeling that he was wrong, but she wasn't going to correct him. She and James made a vow that no matter which one the prophecy spoke of, the boys would grow up the same. They didn't want one boy targeted over the other, so they were going to have to do some damage control to keep the boys out of the spotlight. If it came to the press, they were going to have to give a statement that they didn't know which boy had been hit. They were just happy that both were alive. They, as parents, would do everything they could to prepare their children for what was coming. Thank you for your time, Aura Roberts. Like I told the healer, I know you're really busy at this time. Hopefully now that Voldemort, she said, ignoring the flinch, is gone, we'll have some peace. I hope you are right, Mrs. Potter. I'll see myself out. I'm done here. I took everything that was you-know-whose, so the room should be safe. I know if it were me, though, I'd be looking for a new place to stay, said Aura Roberts as he shook Lily's hand, turned and then left the room and started down the stairs. Lily followed him out. Oh, we'll be moving as soon as possible. I won't tell you where. There are Death Eaters still at large, so it will have to be a secret. You can owl us if you need any more information. As long as there is not spells on the parchment or the owl, then it will find us. Thanks for that, Mrs. Potter. I'm glad to see your family is okay, Mr. and Mrs. Potter. You did the right things calling for us. You have a pleasant rest of the evening. The Aura tipped his hat and left via the flue. After everyone but Sirius had left, Lily fell to the sofa, hoping that this long evening was over. She was about to suggest to James that they go to a hotel for the night when there was a loud pop. Lily turned in her seat, wand at the ready. When she saw who it was, she groaned. Dumbledore was here.